Joining us now is game designer Bill Budge, who works with Electronic Arts, and the president of Electronic Arts, Trip Hawkins.
Bill, there's quite an array of games out here on the table. And what is it that makes a game successful, or what kind of factors go into the design of a game?
It's really hard to, you can't ask people what they want to see on the computer and what kind of programs they want. I really think that a person writing a program has to have an inner conviction of something and write a program that they want to write and a program that they want to use. When I started writing this program, it was something I really wanted to do. I wanted to see it work. And
where'd you get the idea for
I always liked building things, and it was a funny indirect kind of process. I got tired of writing video games. I was really sick of playing them by this time. And I thought, well, it's fun to make video games. I still kind of like to write them, and I bet other people would really like to write them.
You're talking about the Pinball Construction Set.
Right.
And this is kind of a nice game because it actually involves you in the construction of the game itself. It's kind of like a metagame. Is the success of that been pretty good in the sense that, is there a special segment that you're selling to as far as the construction set?
Well, when you start out, yeah, you're looking to the really avant-garde computer users. It takes a while for the message to get out there when everyone is still discovering Pac-Man and a program comes along that's telling them they can build video games. Well, it doesn't register at first, but it's got a slow growth that builds up, and finally now we're getting very good results. The game kind of craze dies out. This stuff's taken off.
Trip, on the business side, what do you look for a successful software game?
Well, I think Pinball Construction Set has a lot of the things that you look for, and that's why it's now one of the top 10 sellers in the country, according to Billboard magazine. We have a philosophy of having products that are simple, hot, and deep. Simple so that you don't have to read a lot of instructions. Of course, most people don't want to have to learn how to operate the computer. They want to just do things with it right away. And Pinball Construction Set, you can immediately play one of the pinball games that are included, or you can quickly make up one of your own, and it's very simple to do that, as I think Bill will illustrate. We also like to have products that are hot in that they should fully use the sound and graphics and other capabilities of the machine. And we also look for programs that are deep. In the case of Pinball Construction Set, you can make your own pinball games, so it has a lot of creative possibilities and allows people to control what they're going to make and interact with it and change it. And that's one of the things that extends the life of the product and causes people to come back to it again and again.
Bill, kind of fun to take a look at this.
I'm dying. Dying to say. Go ahead, Bill.
Okay, well, this is a very simple sort of real-world idea. It's a construction set. You have something that you're building on this side of the screen and a set of parts over here. And I have a hand here that I control with the joystick, and I use that to move things around, say, on the board, the game I'm building. I can modify this game. And I can get parts out of the box, and I can just add them over.
So they're kind of bumpers you're putting into your game?
I'm just putting bumpers, yeah. This is a favorite of really young kids. They like to just grab a whole bunch of bumpers, fill the board up with them, and put a ball on there. A pinball aficionado would gasp, but little kids don't really build pinball machines. They just sort of build things with this. And I can get a ball and put that over here. Then if I want to try out the game, I can just push this menu selection right here, and the game starts to play. Now, if you can see, I've got two balls, one up there. I can launch this one, and I can go out and play the game a little bit, and the balls drop down at the bottom eventually. But before I let that happen, I'll just go back to the parts box and start editing again, get rid of some of these.
Bill, this was kind of a new level, I suppose, of computer game where you really can design the game yourself. What, if you can tell us, what are you working on now? What would be the next step in computer games?
I want to extend the idea of a construction set. I think this one was hard to do when I started, and because there are lots of combinations and things you can't really predict when you're making a kit to make a meta game, as you said. I'd like to extend the idea even further, and the problem there is then designing the parts box. In pinball, it's a small set of parts. You don't really have to worry about thinking up abstractions. In a general construction set, it's not clear what the parts should be. It's almost like you're inventing a new language for representing specifications for programs. It gets very difficult computer science problems.
Trip, at the arcade level, we hear that maybe games sort of peaked and people aren't quite as interested. Are computer games here to stay, or is it a fad?
I think computer games are fundamentally different from video games, mainly because computer technology in the home can be extended and become a much broader base of technology. Just as an example, all of these programs that we're talking about here, they come on floppy disks, and each one of these holds much more memory than can be held in the memory of a coin-operated arcade game. And it really is, it becomes a question of the program size when you finally want to know how good a program can I have and how much can I do with it and how long will it take before I'm bored with it or I've exhausted the educational value. And I can get something like 3 or 4 times more program on here than I can fit into the memory of a coin-operated game.
Okay, you've got one-on-one there. Maybe we can get it loaded. Well, I think, Gary, you had a question.
Well, the only thing I was going to mention is it seems like the games have gone from relatively unsophisticated games to something that requires a lot of sophistication in terms of programming, and the memory size is really an important thing, important aspect of that.
Yeah,
it's hard to
very
really
much
put
so.
that back into 8K.
Has that been the difference really in the early computer games, pretty limited now, the incredible graphics and speed? Has it really been a function of the available memory?
Part of it is just programmers getting better, I think. Not many people wrote video games 5 years ago. There was a small selection. Now there are thousands of people who are capable of writing a good video game. And a few people have upped the ante, so it's not enough maybe to write a video game. You have to write a video game plus a game editor. I think the more popular games really have these extra features built in.
Can we get one on